The episode of OS Flintstones titled El Soberano Mármol may appear at first glance like a light-hearted parody built on exaggerated prehistoric aesthetics, but beneath the layers of stone tools, animal-powered appliances, and slapstick timing lies a surprisingly coherent meditation on authority, ego, and the illusion of permanence. From the opening scene, where Fred Flintstone becomes obsessed with a massive marble slab newly unearthed in Bedrock, the episode sets its thematic anchor clearly. Marble here is not simply stone, it is status. It is the fantasy of immortality in a town where everything is temporary and recycled, even power. Fred's fascination is immediate and childish, yet deeply human. He sees the marble not as a material but as proof that he matters, proof that his name can be carved into something that will outlast gossip, work shifts at the quarry, and even friendships. The first act uses humor to establish this obsession, with visual gags that show Fred imagining himself sculpted larger than life, his chest puffed, his jaw heroic, while the reality keeps interrupting him with Wilma's practical voice and Barney's amused skepticism. What makes this scene effective is not the joke itself but the contrast between fantasy and social friction. Barney, always positioned as Fred's mirror, reacts not with envy but with curiosity, asking simple questions that unknowingly destabilize Fred's sense of superiority. This dynamic becomes the emotional engine of the episode. As Fred convinces himself that marble equals authority, his behavior shifts subtly. He interrupts more, listens less, and begins to speak as if Bedrock already belongs to him. The episode cleverly mirrors real-world political theater, showing how symbols of power often precede actual responsibility. One particularly telling scene shows Fred commissioning a sculptor while ignoring a minor crisis at the quarry. The stone is polished while the community cracks, and the joke lands quietly but sharply. Wilma's role in this episode deserves special attention because she functions as the moral ballast without ever becoming preachy. Her skepticism is not loud. It is weary. She has seen these cycles before. Her dialogue is calm, grounded, and almost modern in tone, which creates a deliberate anachronism that highlights how timeless these conflicts are. The marble may be prehistoric, but the marriage dynamics feel contemporary. There is a scene where Wilma touches the stone and remarks that it is cold. That single line, delivered without punchline, reframes the entire episode. Coldness becomes the emotional cost of Fred's ambition. As the narrative progresses, Fred's self-declared sovereignty escalates into performative authority. He starts issuing orders, organizing pointless ceremonies, and even inventing rules that benefit only himself. The town indulges him at first, partly out of amusement and partly because Bedrock thrives on spectacle. This is where the episode becomes especially sharp in its satire. Power exists because people agree to play along. The moment they stop, the marble becomes just a rock. The turning point arrives during the unveiling ceremony, a scene layered with visual irony. The statue is enormous, polished, and technically impressive, yet completely hollow in spirit. Fred's speech is long, self-congratulatory, and increasingly incoherent, revealing how disconnected he has become from the people he wants to rule. Barney's interruption, accidental and clumsy, triggers the collapse not just of the statue but of the illusion itself.
The marble cracks, and with it, Fred's authority.
This physical destruction mirrors the emotional release of the episode. What follows is not punishment but recognition. Fred is embarrassed, humbled, and momentarily silent, which is rare and meaningful. The final scenes do not restore the status quo immediately. Instead, they linger in discomfort, allowing Fred to confront the emptiness of his pursuit. The resolution is gentle, almost forgiving, suggesting that the desire for recognition is not evil, only misguided when divorced from empathy. Personally, this episode always reminds me of moments in life where ambition masquerades as destiny. I remember watching it as a child and laughing at the falling statue, then revisiting it years later and feeling an unexpected sting of self-recognition. We all have our marble moments, projects or titles we believe will define us, only to discover they weigh more than they protect. El Soberano Mármol succeeds because it understands this universal impulse and translates it into Stone Age comedy without losing emotional truth. It is not one of the loudest episodes, but it is one of the most resonant, quietly asking whether legacy carved in marble is worth more than kindness lived in motion.